vakyam, words, satyam, truthful, priya, dear, hitam, beneficial, cha, also, yat, uch, swadhyaya, a Vedic study, abhyasanam, practice, cha, also, eva, certainly, vangmayam, of the voice, tapa, austerity, uchate, is said to be. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literatures. Purport by Sri Prabhupada. One should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students. But such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. This is penance as far as talking is concerned. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. There is a limitless stock of the Vedic literature, and one should study this. This is called penance of speech. Let us try to understand. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Gnananjansalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Krupa Tamham Bande Sri Gurum Denatarina Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Swaram Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Krupa Sandhubhayevas Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Dadati Swapadantikam. Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta ki jai. Thank you all for joining. So here, chapter 17, 15th verse. First, we'll try to understand this, what the context and the sequence is going on here in the chapter 17, why it is being discussed by Lord Krishna. And then we'll try to see the connection from chapter 16 to 17. And then we'll see the flow of this chapter 17 and try to get into this verse. What is this austerity means, what's supposed to be done, and how to control, and we can look at the examples. So now let's go into the middle 6 chapters. As we know, is Kevala Bhakti, Ananya Bhakti, Ekala Bhakti. Pure devotion service is being stressed in the middle 6 chapters. And so even though it has a mixture of other things, Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti is and also, but Kevala Bhakti is the one which is stressed pure devotion service. And the first 6 chapters are discussing about the Nishkama Karma Yoga and Karma Yoga, little Jnana, also process of Jnana briefly. But this last 6 chapters specifically talking about Jnana in detail, starting with the first 13 chapter, examining the field, which is the body, gross body, nourishing the field, fertiling the field, and then gross bodies are all those. That's why examining is the first, and the knower of the field and the process of knowledge and obtaining. That's how it starts. Basically, it explains, chapter 13 explains why we are here. How did we come here? Contact of the jiva with the body made up of gunas, that has been discussed. Karanam guna sanga saddha sadjanam. Then what type of results come by contacting in this way with the gunas? And that after explaining that, then it flowed into chapter 14, because it cannot stop there, because he has mentioned this is because of gunas. Then what are these gunas? What are the characters? What symptoms? And then how one can get out? So chapter 14 went on to continue that from chapter 13, just describing basically at a high level bondage caused by the gunas and its symptoms are described, and then how one can liberate. One is liberated from these gunas. Then how, by associating with these gunas, what results one get. So that is been, but the bhakti is outline all the 6 chapters. Also, bhakti is being stressed in inward journey, and being detached, because in Kali Yuga we don't need to look for demons outside. Demons are within. So Prabhupada mentions. So that's why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming. So Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Hemavati Vichavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. So he's giving Ajanulambita Pujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika Petaro Kamalaya Taksho Viswambaro Dvijaparo Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karuna. He has come to deliver all of us, deliver from this demoniac attitudes and mentality within the heart of conditioned soul. So that's why chapter 14 has been described, but all the 6 chapters also bhakti is being stressed within the heart, and how to be detached, taking out all these anarthas of demons from the heart. That's why this transcendental knowledge, specifically last 6 chapters, is very, very important. Understanding all these concepts thoroughly is important. So that's what 14th chapter is describing. And the 15th chapter is describing, one way to look at is in terms of the Vedas. Description is not being described, but mainly the detachment aspect by giving the Aswatha Vriksha has been described. Especially, it continues on to 16 and 17 chapter, because it is describing the fruits in the 16 and also 17, because this 15th chapter is talking about the tree. It is talking about the upper branches, lower branches. And the 17th chapter is also talking about some of the parts of the branches of this tree, because 16 chapter 15 and 16 is covered, some topmost and lower part, but some of the parts of the tree is not covered, which is being covered in the 17th chapter. So that's where these all 6 chapters are continuation. So mainly the 15th chapter is being described basically here about the detachment aspect, especially the weakness of the heart is also being described. How to cause cessation of birth has been described. How to attain the supreme has been described. Again, bhakti yoga has been stressed. But how to surmount the weakness of the heart. So that those are the things described. And then what are the fruits has been described in chapter 16. Fruits are the Aswatha Vriksha of Subha and Asubha, auspicious and inauspicious, transcendental and demoniac, Daivi Sampad and Asuri Sampad, what that is been described. Now the 17th chapter is further described of this, because Daivi means top, that's why demigods, Vidyadharas, Kinnaras, Kimpurushas, Maharshis, Janaloka, Tapaloka, as you go up higher and higher quality, higher pious credits who has performed are being their upper planet. Lower planets is those who are performed more and more sinful activities, are less pious credits they have. So then they are born on the lower and lower planets. So in between, there are, so that those, some of the parts, some of the branches of this big gigantic banyan tree. So that is being described, covered also in 17th chapter, where basically 17th chapter is covering that, as Arjuna is asking in the 16th chapter, that is a connection. 16th chapter, 23rd verse, there is a verse where it is mentioned, "Ye shastra vidim visrijya vartate kamakarta na siddhim na vapnoti na sukham param gatim." One who gives up shastric injunctions and following their own ideas and thoughts, vartate kamakarta, because of desire to enjoy, desire to fulfill, then automatically they will not get any perfection. Na siddhim, na sukham, no happiness. neither destination. So in this life or the next life. So that is the first and foremost connection why 17th chapter has to be spoken about. And this is also continuation from the 15th chapter. As I mentioned, now the other parts of the tree, which is not covered in 16 and 15, is being covered in this 17. So that is the 17th chapter. Now let's look at the sections. Sections are a broad category. 1 to 10 is the first section: faith, worship, and foods. 11 to 22, today's verse is in following second section: sacrifices, austerities, and charities in the modes. And the third section, I forgot to compile that. Third section, I think, is talking about, I'll have to look it up again. Then the 1 to 10 subsections are: 1 to 3 is faith, 4 to 6 is worship, 7 to 10 is about the foods. And then the 11 to 22 in today's section is 11 to 13 is sacrifices, 14 to 19 is austerity and penance. Austerity of the body, austerity of the mind, austerity of the speech, and austerity of the mind. In three modes basically. All these are three modes. The whole section is in the three mode: goodness, passion, ignorance. What faith should be, what worship should be, what food should be, what sacrifice, what austerities, what charities. Austerity also / penances. All this being described in this particular section. Now in today's verse, the austerity is being described. Today's verse connection from the 17th chapter begins with that connection. That's where the 16.23 connection. Why Arjuna is asking, because he has doubt. Since you had asked, you mentioned that one who gives up shastric injunctions and you will not get any results. Then what happens to those who gives up, but they have some faith? Then what happens to those? So that's why Shastra Vidim Vustrijya Yajante Shraddhayan Vitas Tesham Nistatuka Krishna Sarpam Maharajastama. So he has that question of one who has given up spiritual authority and acted out of personal desire. Then what is the nishta of those who give up these rules of scripture and according to their inclination and perform worship? Whether tapa, gnana, or japa, they also perform, but they might not have faith in the scripture, but they perform. They have faith in someone else. Then where they will go? Are they in goodness or passion or ignorance? So what happens to them? What mode they are operating? So that's how this chapter starts with Arjuna's question in 17.1. So that's why Lord Krishna is describing in various sections how people operate in these different modes. If you see any of these qualities, then you can understand that how these three modes, they are not in pure goodness, but they are operating in these modes. That's how we can understand. So now this particular verse of today's verse is talking about, first point, it is talking about the austerity of the speech. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahitam chet swadhyaya abhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapochyate. Tapa, austerity. So why we should perform austerity? That is the first question. As we have to understand that why we have to perform austerity. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that clearly describing the exact verse why we have to perform austerity. Because the austerity, tapasaiva param jyotir bhagavantam adokshayam sarvabhuta guhavasam manjasa vintate puma. Tapasaiva, only by tapasa, certainly only by tapasa, penance only can even approach the personality of God, who is within the heart of every living entity, at the same time beyond the reach of all senses. Someone wants to merge into the Brahman effulgence, Paramjyotir, or someone wants to be in Guhavasam, Taravabhuta Guhavasam, is there a super soul through yoga or through Jnana, or Bhagavantam Adokshayam, beyond, that is pure bhakti, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Anjasa Vindate Puman. So, by penance only, one can even approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is within the heart of every living entity and at the same time beyond the reach of all senses. So, Prabhupada is seriously making the point. This is the preliminary little tapasya, just like Ekadasi. That is also one of the items in tapasya. Actually, on Ekadasi day, we shall not take any food, even drink water. But in our society, we are not doing so much strictly. We say Ekadasi, you don't take food grains, take little fruit, milk. This is tapasya. So we cannot execute this tapasya. So if we are not prepared to undertake even this very, very easily executable tapasya, then how can we expect to go back to home, back to Godhead? No, that is not possible. Prabhupada is making that point, what this tapasya means. So that is the first and foremost fundamental understanding one must have. If at all, if anyone is doing some tapasya, then it should be done for this specific reason, is to attain the supreme personality of Godhead. That's how it should be. If you are doing Ekadasi, if you are doing chanting, if you are doing sacrifice, yajna, if you are doing worship of the deity, if you are reading books, you are hearing, all this should be dovetailed or molded towards austerity. And that's how Lord Brahma himself has heard the words tapa, two letters, because Lord is revealing based on his sincerity and dedication. Lord has revealed that one must fear. Please mute your lines, please. So, and one needs obviously mercy of the Lord. Depending on his sincerity, then Lord will show the mercy. So, because how will we perform this austerity? Especially the tongue is the biggest problem. So that's why Shastra again and again you will see this Prabhupada quoting from Chandogya Upanishad. Prabhu, please mute your lines. So Chandogya, Prabhupada quotes from Chandogya Upanishad 720. 1 minute. Let me see if I can mute. Okay. Chandogya Upanishad 726 too, Prabhupada is quoting Ahara Suddho, Sattva Suddho, Smrutir Lambe, Sarva Granthina Vipramoksha. By eating the sanctified food, then you will be able to purify his existence. By purification, the finer tissues in the memory will be sanctified. Then when memory is sanctified, then one can think of path of liberation. So all these combined together lead to Krishna Kama. If the tongue itself is not taking Krishna sanctified food, then where is the question of controlling the tongue? That is austerity of speech. It's very, very important. Anudvegakaram vakyam. So where else it is coming from? Not only from this tongue, it is actually the internal desires, especially the biggest desire is from this union. This desire causes subtle aspects we can't see. Many times we can't see. We can't just control that desire. From there, it transforms into so many different angles, looking for name, fame, looking for recognition, and even if somebody says something little bit, then we can't control our tongue. We have to talk, we have to open our mouth. So this is all coming from that also. It is a underlying effect of our sinful activities. Don't think that if we stop today, the ripple effect of that activity, it may take not only one lifetime, it may take more and more lifetimes. Unless we detect and understand how it should be conducted, the desire, how to remove that desire, the proclivity in the heart. That's why Shastra recommends one must, before the tongue, the speech to be controlled, senses must be used in the service of the Lord. As much as possible, other than chanting, one must be in the association of devotees, one must do physical service. Without doing that, it's very difficult and it takes time. It is going to take time because we have spent quite a bit of time in these activities. Then we can't expect it in a day it's going to change. Because the result, so many unwanted results we have produced, then how is it going to nullify it? Because we are not 100% pure devotions that we are performing. So then it can't produce, it can't burn out all the unwanted results we have produced. It will take time. If someone is acting on that platform, then yes, it can burn in 1 minute. but we are not operating at that level. So that's why it is going to take time. So that's why we have to be, that's why the austerity of the body is required. Why Krishna has to speak about the body first. Body, speech, mind. That's why in even deity worship that is there. Why somebody has to do watchman? Why somebody has to put tilak? So it is very important. If you are not putting tilak coming to the temple, please kindly put tilak. Please. It is very important. It's okay. Not knowingly you have come so far, but please make it a practice. It is very important because these are the practices which will help to focus internally. Putting the tilak, not only the top, there are 12 places supposed to be put. We have to gradually come to that, but at least start with the top tilak, and start focusing, putting tilak in all the other 12 parts also. These for our own purification. My spiritual master has said few times, actually even to women disciples also he said, if you don't put your kanti mala, if you don't put your 12 places of tilak, how you are going to be protected? How you are going to be protected? So this is because that's why Shastra is giving. Why Shastra is prescribing that you are supposed to put 12 places of tilak. Yes, if you are going to office, you can put it and you can rub it off. Before you go, rub it off, put water tilak in place. No problem. Or you put water tilak at home and go. No problem. But when you come to temple, it is ideal, it is important. This culture is very important. The tongue has to be controlled, the body has to be purified. The externally, internally. That's why we have to take 2 times a bath. Especially when we go to office, it is very important that we take bath after coming back. Because so much impurities by association, we get so much agitation. Knowingly or unknowingly, we are going to be bursting. We are going to be talking, with agitation at home. That's going to happen automatically because of the association, because of the environment, because of the people. We are not at pure consciousness. So we have to be very careful. That's why as soon as we come, first take bath. That will help to at least subdue what we have went throughout the day, other than on top of chanting. But bodily purification also very, very much required. And that's why when we come to temple, we should ideally take bath and come. But it's okay if you are busy in service, what to do, at least in the morning you have taken, continue it, that's fine. But if you are going to altar for sure, going back in around the deity area, one must take proper clean clothes and taking bath is ideally required. Emergency, it's fine. But these are the certain things to be done in deity worship. Also, upachar process, especially very strict. Very carefully, whoever is doing upachar, please pay attention to the details. Otherwise, it will miss. Clear details are being given. Systematically categorize it. Here you will see that Krishna is categorizing it. He's not whimsically speaking one thing here, one thing there, one thing. No. Exactly, you see the sequence. Faith, worship, foods. Because if you don't even have proper faith, if we are not even taking a proper food in sattvic mode and the Krishna conscious food, then how we are going to expect austerity of speech, austerity of the body, of the cleanliness, purification, the control? It cannot come. It cannot come. The basic first, that's why there's a proper sequence, proper, very systematically. Lord Krishna is presenting in each and every chapter. We have to very carefully understand, study. So that's why in Upachar process also, first the double Achman, first Achman 10 mantras, second Achman 10, you have subtle mantras. Then you, before you do that, mantra Suddhi is there. You chant first, you invoke the Ganga, and after the, purify the bell, purify all the items. Every item has to be purified before you start anything. Every item. There's a whole chapter in 11th canto. We have to pay attention to this. If we are doing upachar, we have to pay attention to that. 11th canto, one of the chapter, Lord Krishna himself is speaking to Uddhava there clearly how deity worship should be done. We all have to read. Those who are directly worshipping deity must read that chapter and understand its aspects so that it will help us to improve. Always we have to try to, if we are worshipping deity, we have to constantly strive for improvement. Otherwise, we cannot remove what is there in the heart. Prabhupada is clearly saying in multiple classes, if we cannot try to improve the deity worship, your loving relation with the deity, then you can't remove your dirtiness in the heart. More you gorgeously worship the deity, more you will have clean heart. Otherwise, it cannot happen. Period. So this thought should be understood carefully, and we have to strive, work seriously towards it. Otherwise, there is no question. There is no question. Because name, fame, glory, and whatnot, these unwanted desires in the heart cannot be removed. Cannot be removed. Because it's going to take a long time. So that's why these things, how Krishna is mentioning here, is in the sequence, has to be understood. The austerity of speech is very, very tough to deal with. And we see that the example of Vidura. Vidura was being thrown out when he was giving nice instruction to Dhritarashtra, and then Dhritarashtra didn't take it. Actually, didn't receive that instruction in the heart. So because he was very much favorable to his son, he wants to keep his son in the power, and he cannot reject his son, even though Vidura, great Mahajan, is giving instructions. So and then Duryodhana, hearing what Vidura is instructing, he insulted to such an extent. And how did Vidura take it? How did Vidura react it? He didn't utter a single word. He saw that as two ways. First, he saw externally, he saw Duryodhana is acting by the influence of the illusory energy, is operating on the three modes, lower modes. So that's why he's acting. Number one. Number two, he's seeing internally. Actually, Lord Krishna is blessing me by having this opportunity for me to purify myself, because I have associated with this contamination of Duryodhana and party. So it is opportunity given by the will of the providence for me to go to travel to the holy places, take the association of devotees, worship the deity, and hear from them and serve them. This is how Vidura has taken. You see that he didn't react. Whole Srimad Bhagavatam has hundreds of examples. I'm just giving some of the examples so that we understand. So don't try to react, especially office. It may be different story altogether. But still, there also it is better as devotees. We should try to control where we can, not react immediately. So especially in other environment, devotional environment, especially at temple or at home, these two things must be applied. Don't try to react immediately, and it requires a lot of practice. Bodily cleanliness, as we mentioned, this culture has to be implemented at home. Also, we should try to put tilak every day, even though we are not going to temple. Morning, evening, whenever you do, at least once, you should try to put one tilak at least. Forget about 12 tilaks. We are not putting tilak means we are not purifying, trying to follow the basic tenets of bhakti. So we have to do it. Even though we are running out of time, we don't have time, we have to take care of it now. Still try to do it. As much as we'll try to do it. It helps. If you are going out, then you can rub it off, especially the office. Don't worry who's going to say what. Oh, I'm going to grocery shop. I'm going to Costco. Or people may think, are they going to come to you to deliver you when you're going to give up this body? No, none of them are going to come. So why are you worried about somebody saying XYZ? So don't worry about others. Worry about Guru and Krishna, what they are saying, how they are leading us, what they are showing the path, how they are practicing it. So yes, there are practical considerations. In some cases you may not want to, but which is fine. At least put water tilak. If there still doesn't have faith in that surrender, it's okay. Put water tilak. But it is for our own benefit. This culture, this cleanliness, this bodily austerity is required, very much required. So that's what we see in Vidra's case. Don't react immediately and see things as they are in influence of illusory energy. Somebody is acting. So don't react. And then second case is accept as will of the providence. It is actually teaching us a lesson that we also are getting agitated. So we have to somehow or the other subdue our senses. Either we pick up the beads, either we read Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, or you call a friend, call a devotee, or take more and more association, take service, and give up this tendency to commit sinful activities. Try to give up, and which is going to be very hard. That's why every activity, brushing the teeth, you put a class, or always class should go on. I was telling the other day also, class should go on, or kirtan should go on, even in the bathroom also. Don't worry taking cell phone to bathroom. You can take it. As long as you're using for Krishna's role, you take it. No problem. Because ideally senses has to be purified. Otherwise, there are also some other unwanted thoughts only will come. So that's why this will help. That's why we have to chant Bhagavad Gita slokas, why we are learning. Because these slokas, what we are learning, we have to remember and we can chant. If we can remember, we can chant in the bathroom or brushing the teeth. We have to recite, or you'll hear the class. Something we have to do, because otherwise we don't have time. Hours and hours of reading and hearing. So that is the only time we got nitya naimitya karmas. Then we have to utilize that time also very effectively. It is funny. It seems to be funny, but it is not funny. It is a serious thing, actually. Prabhupada is making that point in the purports, few of the purports, clearly making, I think Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur is quoting and explaining, including brushing the teeth, evacuating, all this will be those who are trying to path of perfection come to, they will utilize every activity, offer that to Krishna. How will you offer? Then this is how you offer. Use the time, making that as Krishna conscious activity also. You don't see it as a bodily platform. So this way we can control the austerity of speech. Otherwise, it's very difficult. If you don't see in these two angles how Vidura is seeing, it's very difficult, and it requires a lot of practice also. In the second instance, we see that Lord Shiva, when Daksha cursed Lord Shiva, and then Nandiswara and others, his disciples were cursing, counter cursing. Bhrigu was cursing. In all these situations, Lord Shiva didn't utter a single word, because he's seeing every one of them as Pandita Samadarshana. He's seeing he's a Vaishnavana Meta Sambho. Prabhupada is making that point in the purport that he's seeing everybody is equal. He didn't utter a single word. He was just became morose. How much what's going on? Then he just left, and then all his disciples followed. He didn't utter a single word because he's completely absorbed in remembrance of Lord Sankarshan. That's why he didn't get up. He was completely meditating on Lord Sankarshan. So this is the another example we see that, and it's a very high level. These examples, some of these examples are high level devotees, top level devotees. But at least we can try to understand, take some principles, and try to apply. So some austerity has to be followed. Don't react. That is the first principle. We have to somehow or the other not react, whether devotee or not a devotee. Rather, it is a principle. If you read 64 items of devotions, what is mentioned in the second set of principles, 20th item is mentioned clearly. Any living entity, not even anudvekaram vakyam to the devotee, actually. It is mentioned any living entity. It is an offense to give agitation to any living entity. That means don't think that you can hide from Krishna. I'm not at temple, I'm not at home, I'm driving or I'm outside. I can curse anybody, I can talk foolishly, or I can, whatever, use foul words. Anybody while driving or while doing other things, nobody's watching. No. Krishna is watching what we are doing. So that we have to be careful. So it's a practice. We have to control our tongue. Must be done and not react. We'll get agitated because people are going to put horns and whatnot, try to put headlights, whatnot. They will want to pass over you and jump on you. They will try to do, but you be peaceful or you move to the right lane. You don't need to jump and act in the same way. Then there is no difference then. As a devotee and those who are not even trying to follow, then there is no difference. These are the principles that have to be applied universally in all the cases. Then only we will be able to practice it. Otherwise, we try to follow a temple, we will become very nice. And then in all other places, we act completely opposite. Then 90% of the time, we are outside only. At temple only, we are there only sometimes. Now, how we are going to change it? Consciousness. We can't change it. So that's why we have to think through how we act. We have to detect how are we acting and practicing outside world. Then we have to subdue these activities, subdue this unwanted agitation in the senses, so that we can, even at temple also, if something comes up, somebody says, in the class or outside the class or face to face or in the mixture of people. So we have to understand, and then otherwise consequences will be there. if you also react in the same way. Others may not take it seriously, but it is for our benefit, for our progress in Krishna consciousness. More we react, the karma is there. Karma, no one can avoid the reaction of the karma for our agitation of speech. Then we have to go through that. Somebody else is going to act according to us. So that's why we have to be very, very careful. Austerity of speech is a very, very important aspect. It's very subtle and very deep. So that's why we have to look at these examples and how to follow. And Krishna is making that point. And Lord Uddhava also is Krishna is instructing in the whole chapter. Actually, there is a, what chapter is that? I think 11, 16, 43. When Lord Uddhava is asking, please explain all the opulences. Then in that he is explaining. A transcendentalist who does not completely control his words and mind by superior intelligence will find that his spiritual vows, austerity, charity will flow away just as water flows out of an unbaked clay pot. That means it is, you are taking it inside, you are getting some credits and you are losing it another way. So there, Prabhupada is making the point. When a clay pot is properly baked, it holds any liquid substance without leakage. If a clay pot is not properly baked, however, water or any other liquid within it will seep out and be lost. Similarly, a transcendentalist who does not control his speech and mind will find that his spiritual discipline and austerity gradually sweep away and are lost. Dana or charity refers to work performed for the welfare of others. Those who are trying to give the highest charity by preaching Krishna consciousness do not engage in speaking cleverly. Important point. Cleverly for the satisfaction of beautiful women, nor should they attempt to become artificially, intellectually, simply for the sake of mundane academic prestige. Nor should one daydream of acquiring a prestigious position. Otherwise, one's determination to strictly practice Krishna consciousness will be lost. One must control the mind, senses, and speech by higher intelligence so that one's life will be successful. Yo vai vak manasi samyak asamya acham diyayati tasya vratam tapodhanam sravati atma gata atma bhuvat. That is verse 11, 16, 43. The whole chapter, these are the last verses. Krishna is explaining at the conclusion that how important it is to control the words and mind. And it requires a lot of practice. So that's why we all have to practice and do service, do chanting and hearing, be in the association of devotees, especially those who are trying to follow Sri Prabhupada's instruction very carefully and trying to control the speech. Then by following, by in their association, by hearing, by more and more doing service as much as possible whenever we have first opportunity. And then in that way we'll be able to control gradually. By that practice itself, gradually will become this, because unwanted desires, what is there in the heart, that gets purified, as I mentioned, from that. Otherwise, what we have done many years ago, so that is still lingering, because that it takes quite some time to clear up. So that's why by performing these activities, automatically those internal desires, the proclivities will go away. Then we'll be able to control. Otherwise, we try to control artificially, it's not going to happen. Again and again, agitation will come in the speech. So that's why it's an important lesson for us. Further, Krishna is speaking in the fourth canto also. Srutena tapasa va kim vachobi chitta vrittivi buddhya va kim nipunaya balena indriya radasa. Without devotion service, what is the meaning of severe austerity? The process of hearing, power of speech, power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of senses. As far as our senses are concerned, there are many animals, both birds and beasts, who are very expert in exercising their senses more keenly than human beings. Vultures and hawks can go very high in sky, but can see a small body on the ground very clearly. This means that their eyesight is so keen that they can find an eatable corpse from a great distance. Certainly, their eyesight is much keener than human beings. This does not mean that their existence is more important than human beings. Similarly, dogs can smell many things from a far distance. Many fish can understand by the power of sound that enemy is coming. All these are described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If one's senses cannot help him attain the highest perfection of life, realization of Supreme, they're all useless. So that's it. So the austerity, whatever we are performing, chanting, even the lectures, it cannot be based on, it is not for pleasing the people. People may come today, one person may come today, 100 people may come. Now tomorrow no one may come. It cannot be based on pleasing the people. So then is our actual real goal is kirtan or chanting, anything we are doing, it is for to please Guru and Krishna. We can ask for inspiring us and inspiring people from Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Prabhupada, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, our spiritual master. And then we can try to follow by their mercy. Atapi te deva padam bhayam Bhagavan. Janapi tatvam Bhagavan mahimno. So we have to be on the standard of the mercy. We have to act on the mercy only. Then only we can speak. We can inspire ourselves, we can inspire others. Otherwise, there is no possibility. Minute we think we want to please somebody else, minute we think that we are scholar, minute we think we have read 10 books, I can speak, then we won't be able to inspire us or inspire others. It has to be purely on the basis of mercy only. We have to really cry in front of Sri Prabhupada and Lord Nityananda Prabhu, seek mercy to act in any service, whether it's deity worship or cooking, garlands or classes. Otherwise, the result, the purity will not be there. So that's why it is very important to take their shelter before we do anything. So that will help us to actually control our speeches. That will help us to control our agitation while doing any of this service. And we'll pay attention, much more attention to the details in each of these services. Otherwise, there is no scope. We will not be able to pay attention to details. We will not try to improve it because we are not depending on their mercy. We are depending on our own strengths. In devotion service, it's not going to work like that. So that is what we have to understand from this austerity of speech. Very deep subject. This is not a comes by a few years. Actually, it requires a lot of practice, internal meditation, and how to deal with our own and discussing with advanced devotees, Siksha Guru, spiritual masters also. To the extent we are falling prey into Maya, to that extent we have to understand what's going on in our life and then seek guidance, how we can control these urges. So that's why in this verse we see that Anudvekaram Vakyam Satyam, the four qualities we mentioned. Austerity of speech consists on speaking words that are truthful, first quality, pleasing, beneficial, third, not agitating others. And the other one is regularly reciting. So that will help. This is the additional aspect. By regularly reciting, and that means we also need to look at the purport, what it applies, how to apply after reciting that verse or learning that verse, what it means, what do I need to change. Always look at each and every verse, not the just meaning, but what I need to change, what I have to put in practice. That is the whole idea of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, is Operation Nectar Divorce, Nectar of Instruction. All these books are meant to change the lifestyle, change the culture, change the behavior, change the way how we act. That is the whole idea. Not simply we hear a story or we hear some 1, 2, 3, 4 and then go on and move on and do nothing about it. No, actually we have to do something about it. And these are the lessons to be learned, to be implemented, to be result oriented, not only in the professional world. It has to be much more result oriented in the spiritual practices. If we are not seeing the results, that means something is lacking. We have to question ourselves and we have to discuss with those who are seriously making progress or discuss with the spiritual master so that we can detect our problem and then find the right solutions and progress. So that's what we can learn from today's verse. Thank you very much. Krishna Gandhara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions, comments, reflections, corrections?
Dhanavad Pranam.
Yes.
So in this sloka, when you started explaining, we should not react. That's what you told. It's stamped in my mind. So
Yes.
what exactly it means by react? Because in our daily life, we face many situations. Some situations are very strong that we need to react. Even at the temple, sometimes we may have to make sure the things done means we have to be strong enough and we have to be a little harsh sort of thing also. So what exactly when you say we should not react? Can you explain?
When yes, not react means first digest what's happening and try to gather the senses in such a way that you how to resolve particular. It is going to be beneficial for everybody. First we have to understand: is it happening? Implicate it is it affecting for me only? Is affecting more people? That is the first concern. If it is affecting only me, then we can be quiet, no issue. What is the big deal of it is only affecting me. If somebody is cursing or somebody is saying something, then it's okay, we can just ignore and move on. But if it is affecting few other devotees and it's affecting in a larger scale, then definitely we have to consider and take to the right persons. We may not be in a position to act, because again we have to see, look at the examples. When you can react, but you may not be able to subdue, you may not be able to resolve the situation, then what will be the use? We have to think all these things. So that's why when I say don't react immediately without thinking through the consequences, without thinking through what will be the result if I say this. So we have to understand the situation a little more deeper. If we are running out of time, it's better somebody else address that problem rather than we address the problem. So we have to understand these things a little more carefully. Lord Brahma is coming into picture to Prithu Maharaj, and Indra is coming and addressing, because he is the at the higher level, and he is mentioning first be respectful for those who are counseling. If you are not respectful in that situation, out of whatever 305 people, how many people are there? If the person who is trying to address that situation, if they don't have respect, then however you may try to resolve, it is not going to lead to the right result. You have to bring in a person who they can listen to. Then that is what you have to bring to. So it is very important to understand these subtle aspects, when to react and how to react, and it comes by practice. It cannot be, it cannot come in just in few days. So that's why hearing and reading the purports of Srila Prabhupada, then and by looking at the examples of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada disciples, then we will be able to know how to act, when to act, how to do it.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice explanation. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Anyone else? Corrections, comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have one question.
Go ahead.
So when we are on this Krishna consciousness path, we think that whatever we are doing, we are at it, let's say for example, I'm doing 16 rounds and I'm following all those 4 principles, and whatever is mentioned, suggested by Srila Prabhupada, where we think that we are following everything, but then we how we will understand that we are not doing right? Because in general, human tendency is that whatever I'm doing, that is the right way. Or let's say even at work or outside, we speak harshly, and then we will conceive ourselves saying that no, what I did, that is the right way. I didn't do anything wrong. You will convince yourself that there is nothing going wrong, and that way, if you will progress, we will never understand that we lost that path. How one will understand that?
Important question. It is very important to be always in the active listening mode. So that's why the lectures are important. That's how we know. Sometimes we may not get direct hints from others that you are doing wrong, you acted incorrectly or inappropriately, inadvertently, whatever. So people may not say that to you. In corporate culture, there are ways to say it. Whether your boss or through other, they will seek some feedback at the end of the year or middle of the year, whatever the case may be. Sometimes immediately, depending on how strong the case is. Accordingly, they give the feedback right to the manager or to the senior level people, and then we get right away we get that feedback depending on the situation. But in the temple situation, it's very important to be in the association of devotees and to be hearing the classes regularly. Very important, because otherwise they will not know. And that's why the first thing is we're seeking the mercy, constantly praying. Second thing is we have to hear the classes. We can seek feedback ourselves. We can ask devotees, whatever service we are doing, we can ask anything wrong, anything to be corrected, anything to be improved. We have to constantly seek the feedback. As devotees also, doesn't matter however senior or junior, doesn't matter. We have to find out. Because otherwise we will not know. I have given example myself. I used to dress deity worship, do the dressing of Radha Shamsundar, and then I used to put flute before finishing. You can't put flute. I heard. I got a feedback directly, indirectly also. Then I have to change. Then otherwise, what is the use of me doing dressing? If you don't understand the basic tenets of bhakti and you are getting a feedback, and if it is for right reason, why can't we change? That means some false ego is hurting. We are not. It is going to hurt. Initially, it is going to hurt. Who is he to give feedback? That question will come. That is good question actually, and it is going to hurt or false ego. Still, we have to correct. That is the way we progress. Otherwise, there is no question of progress. So then I had to act. Initially, false ego hurted. Yes, it does. It does. Truth is always hurts. Then we have to act. I corrected myself, and then I was not putting now until the last, until everything dressing is done. Then only I am putting flute. It is very important to receive feedback. Many times we take lightly. He's junior. He just came. What experience he got? No. In devotional service, it doesn't work like that. Anybody who is giving a good feedback, we heard directly or indirectly. If it is going to actually, it is a good thing, it is the right thing for devotional service, for the Lord's pleasure, then that is the right thing to do. Isn't it correct? Right? Because why do we need to put a flute? Lord, when we will put flute, is ready, going out, everything is ready. We haven't dressed fully, then if you put flute, means your turban is not ready. Yes, for the sake of it, we want to finish from bottom up. Then you put the flute and you are trying to do turban. That means Lord is not ready. How can he play flute? Think about it. Practically. We have to look at other. Krishna is always. Yes, he can do. But doesn't mean that you do inappropriately. So we have to do some practical considerations. So that's why I felt it is actually inappropriate. That is not the right way to do it. So then I corrected myself. Few other things I heard like that. Then I corrected myself. And it's a long way to go. Our journey is long. So we have to take the feedbacks and try to put in practice. And don't look for junior, senior. If it is good feedback, we corroborate, we understand the situation. That's why I also mentioned in other classes, don't try to do blind following. No blind following. You have to corroborate with Sadhu, Shastra, Guru. You have to constantly hear, constantly read. Then only you know. If you don't question what is mentioned in the Shastra, what Srila Prabhupada said, what your Guru said, what some Mahajanas said, then how will you know what is right thing, what is not right thing? You will not know. So that's why it is important to get this feedback from various angles. So that we'll definitely know what is whether we are on the right track, whether we are chanting properly. That's why sometimes our senior devotees said you have to record yourself what you are chanting. Sometimes we misspell our chanting. Sometimes we omit letters. Sometimes we go too fast. Then if we record it, then we'll know. Others have to tell. Don't be, why is he criticizing me? Why is he telling me that my chanting is bad? Yes, he may not be at your level. That's fine. But it is good for us now. He's pointing out some defects. It is going to help us to progress. Okay, I have to correct myself. Let me hear what I'm chanting and then correct. If it is right feedback, then let us correct it. So that is why we are here, to correct ourselves. Improvement is always important in devotional practice, especially. In material circle, may not be so important, because they can go up the ladder without improving much, because as long as their boss is like they still getting the promotions and higher and higher, no problem. In corporate world that can happen, but in spiritual world, in the progress Krishna is seeing, you can't progress uh, by chance. By chance is not there. In devotional practice, by chance is not going to happen. Everything is being watched by Lord Krishna. So Guru knows, even though you may not be seeing what's going on, then accordingly only mercy is flowing. So that's
Right.
what my answer will be.
So based on the same example which you just suggested, that you about the flute. So you accept that is your mistake. You regret maybe for your action, and then do you really go to apologize? Do you seek for the forgiveness, or you ignore and you just make sure that next time I'll not do? Because to seek forgiveness is also one should have the courage, right, to accept and go and face it and say that yes, I'm sorry, I did the wrong. So is it required, or it's fine that you are, as far
in
as you are
in in,
improving?
in some of these cases may not be really required, but if you offended, then yes, you ask for forgiveness from the Lord. But doing it not knowingly, you did that sequence, then it's fine. But from a devotee, is giving the feedback directly or indirectly, which is the right thing. Initially it may not be right thing, but after a little deliberation, then you know that right thing. It's not a question of forgiveness in this case, because it's not offense to the devotee, right? So it's okay. But in some cases, it may be an offense to a devotee. So in that case, definitely it's a good idea to seek for forgiveness. Or if somebody has instructed, you are working under someone, ABC, then if you have done some mistake, then yes, it's a good idea to, Prabhu, I did something wrong, even though you instructed me in this way, somehow I didn't follow, but I realized it later on. Then please forgive me. Next time I will not repeat, or something like that. So that's the way to go about it. But not necessary that every time you have to forgive, ask for forgiveness. You don't need to touch the feet and all. All those things are not necessary. Idea is to make a corrective action. That is more important than other things. But if it is especially if you uttered some strong words or some agitated speech to a devotee, advanced devotee especially, yes, definitely. Even for any devotee, use that, then you can ask for forgiveness, no problem. But if it is not about that, but some general instructions, feedbacks, you don't need to ask for forgiveness. For everything, don't try to touch somebody's feet. It's not a good practice. It will be more embarrassment for, it's not a good practice either.
Okay. Okay. Understood. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. It was very detailed. Thanks. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Gokul Priya Mata, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see the screen.
Yeah, no problem, Prabhu. Thank you so much for a very wonderful class, Prabhu. Very nicely spoken. And I really liked your answer also that you gave earlier on feedback. Feedback is a gift, so very nicely spoken. Prabhu, my question was on, actually there were two things in my question. One was on gossip, right? Austerity of speech, we say. And of course, material world people gossip and that happens, but there are also very good people, right? Like we meet.
Yeah, right.
But then in devotional service also, like, in devotees, we see there's gossip. And, so maybe if we are listening to a gossip, we might just walk away. Or we might, if they are close to you, you can correct and we can say, hey, we should not talk like this. But then sometimes you hear some devotee tells you, oh, these people were talking, gossiping about you, or they were talking this about you and that about you. So how do we take it, Prabhu? Like, what's the right thing to do in that case? Like when you hear somebody is gossiping about you, what should be our next step? What's the right thing to do in that scenario?
Especially again, I come to the same point. If somebody is gossiping about us, personally, then it's okay. Ignore it and move on. But if it is gossiping about somebody else, if it is affecting more people and temple and bigger picture, then definitely that mentality, that culture to be corrected. Whether we will correct it, we have to see the picture, and or we have to act through someone else, some other leaders whom they have respect for and whom they can listen to, and then in that way correct the situation. So that is the ideal way to, because it's very many times it is difficult to change their behavior, change their culture by going and telling them. They may not like it because they are into that business regularly, so they may not change it. Rather, it's just unnecessarily spoiling our time. Avyartha kalattam. So not that doesn't mean that you don't interact with devotees. Yes, you can interact, you can say Hare Krishna, you, it means healthily, means it's not that you have something against any devotee. You still discuss, you ask for basic things, and then how things are going on and this and that, and then move on, and pick up the beads and chant, or worship the deity, or see the arati, or take prasadam, or something else, some devotion aspect what you like, and be part of that, and don't try to entertain or continue this gossip aspect. More you continue, more you will fall prey into that only. Along with them, we will also join into that mold, and we'll continue that for quite some time. And it's very difficult to give that kind of habit. So
Yeah, you're so right, Prabhu. It's a habit of few people, right? Like,
Yes.
I don't know if it's more on ladies or whatever, but just they talk, the iska ye hua, uska wo hua. So what you're saying is, if somebody else, like what I said, we just walk away, engage in service, and but if it's about you, also no point correcting them. It's better to just work
yeah,
with the leaders and
yeah,
yeah,
correct. But
yeah,
if it is
because even
hurting
if
too
we
much, I would
hmm?
also say that if it is hurting too much, means I don't know what level they are speaking, but if it is hurting too much, then you just can't take it. Then see, discuss confidentially with others, and see how this situation can be remediated, or how to not let it happen again from them. So think through first, deliberate within yourself, and pray to the Lord, give the intelligence and how to resolve the situation. So that's why many times it is better not to act immediately. It requires time for some deliberation, some answers, some reflections to come from directly from the Lord, or directly from the Guru or Prabhupada through lectures. It takes time. More we take time, a day or two, the better it is, so that we are at a peaceful mind to think through right resolutions. Then we can resolve it in a better way than immediately trying to coming to conclusions.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Prabhu, because I think if we try to correct them, or we, even tell them gossip is bad, they will think, oh, why did I even tell you? I should have not even told you. They were talking like this, or it might offend them. So working through the leader, or taking time to react is a very good option. So thank you, Prabhu. This was helpful.
Thank you. All yours, Prabhupada. Bimal Gupta, Prabhu.
Prabhupada.
Go ahead.
All yours. You're able to hear me, right?
Your voice is low. Can you speak up a little, please?
How about now, Prabhuji?
Yeah, better.
Yeah, Prabhuji, this is a general question. Actually, we went to this last Monday for book distribution, Bhagavad Gita book distribution.
Okay.
So I encountered a non-devotee, and he was saying on my face itself that I don't believe on God. He's a completely atheist. So I was giving him some kind of gyan, Bhagavad Gita gyan, what is karma, and we have to do our karma, and in case we don't do our karma, we can in the next life we may turn into lower species. He is basically, he was very happy. Yeah, if I get a lower species body, I'll be more happy. They live in their own world and all that. And I don't know if I was able to justify him, or I was able to convince him that I don't know if I was able to convince him that to hear more of conversation, or to give him some kind of lecture, or to give him some guidance that he'll be interested to understand, to become atheist to non-atheist. But I don't know if I justified him. But That's what I wanted to guide us from this. So if we encounter this kind of devout persons, right, who are complete atheists, how do we convince them to hear Bhagavad Gita or hear about God and know about God? That's what I'm trying to
Yeah, good question again. I think we have to look at the situation and our own position, means our own level, means react. In general, means at our level, it's better to give them prasadam, better to say just Hare Krishna, and then maybe if you want to say something, one or two lines, short, that's it, and go to some other. Extending is not going to really
Yeah.
solve.
Because correct. Srila Prabhupada clearly told, right? We should not even talk to non-devotees too much who doesn't want to hear. So
Yeah, right. So that's why. But if it is Uttamadhikari like Srila Prabhupada disciples, they can do, because they are at a different level. They can directly talk to the soul. Even he may be atheist, they may be able to transform the person. They may be able to talk for quite some time. But at our level, it may be better to shorten it. But definitely, it's good to say Hare Krishna or good to some holy name. So and some prasadam, so that he gets benefit either immediately or when it will react. That's up to Krishna and Guru. But at least that benefit we should give, and then walk to the next, go to the next person. But if somebody is at least some belief is there, he may be argumentative. Then we can quote from Shastra. Or we can, if we have a strength and some mercy is coming to speak, say a few words. Yes, discuss for a few minutes and see the reaction. How is reacting? To the degree they are receptive, to the degree you can react and spend time. If they are not receptive, walk out, move to the next. So, yeah, don't try to agitate them. Then may not be much helpful for both the parties.
yeah, Prabhuji, when he was he was not hearing me, then I may move to the next house. So yeah, that's what I do. Keep giving the Lord's message there, because he's not interested to hear this. But I thought definitely I want to give some kind of message that the way you told, right? Use the prasad and give them Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, I said that, but I don't recollect it. But yeah, prasad, well, book distribution, we are not taking it. So we should start taking that as well.
Yeah, you can take it, no problem. You can always there. So that's why the sweets or anything, cookies, fruits, anything you see that means if you are planning to go in the mid of the week or something, then you pick up something from temple, try to give. It is a good idea to give. Again, time, place, circumstance, see it. Some Western people may not take it. So depending on the audience, accordingly, you can try to give. So we have given last week or so, December last week when we did. I took somehow, my wife brought some rasgulla or something. So we gave to the Western. They are very happily took it actually. Westerns were more receptive than Indians in that day. Somehow, my Krishna's mercy, and they took it happily, Rasgulla. All their kids were very happy to receive it.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Already 8:20. So I think we should conclude.
Yeah.
Prabhu, I had a follow up. I raised my hand. I'm not sure if you saw.
Let's make it quick.
Yeah. So, Prabhu, to what you mentioned, right? So, is it okay to even pray for these devotees, like who are doing, like, if something like gossip or something is going on, is it okay to pray for these devotees that they, Krishna gives them good intelligence and whatnot?
Yes, for sure, definitely. Yes, why not?
And Prabhu, then why are they doing it? Like, even if they're practicing for so many years, why would somebody not get rid of this habit? Like, why does this happen with devotees?
It's the culture, right? It's the strength and the strongness is not there in terms of the hearing, in terms of the service, in terms of the worship, in terms of seeking the mercy. these four things are, when they are not strong in their practice, then obviously you keep on continuing on the same, and the association also whom you associate. If you are constantly office anyway, that only happens. But in circles of devotees also, then you are constantly in those molds and association. Then that's what you get onto. So that habit won't go away. So that's what you have to strike the balance, and you have to pray. So that's why Prabhupada established these platforms, and unfortunately, it falls under all the leaders. So all the leaders, we have to see how to revive the culture, reform the culture constantly, and this requires a lot of thought process, some meditation, how to engage them basically. If you properly engage them, everybody, then there is no question of gossip. There is no time for gossip. Right? The question is not properly engaged, not properly structured. Then there's a question. Then there's a culture. So many angles you see that. That's why Sri Prabhupada implemented so many different ways to counteract these kind of things and engagement of people in every aspect. You see, very particular Sri Prabhupada. I was hearing from Jayadvaisa Maharaj also in terms of prasadam. Why did they put these blockers in the prasadam hall at the entrance? Free prasadam. There, it's a sensitive thing. Like prasadam, people may take. The Prabhupada, to such an extent, he was deeply thinking that if he's going to take prasadam packet, he can take it, but he may mix it with fish and what non-veg and eat. That's an offense. So then Prabhupada put this thing divider or whatever, some kind of blockers in that entrance where they check that they are not hiding and putting in a box and taking home. So Prabhupada is very, very detailed oriented. You want to make sure proper process, proper things are done. Very systematic, very detailed oriented, and he wants to make sure everybody is engaged properly. So that's why for all the leaders, a lot of work to be done across, in not just one temple, but all over the temple, all over ISKCON. Things, a lot to be done. It's a lot of work to be done. So then only this can, because proper engagement is not there, proper culture is not set, then this thing can go on for quite some time, and it can destroy the actual purity. It reduces the purity, and so we become very much fall into laziness. That's all it becomes. So that's why it requires some attention, some details.
Yeah, that's a good point, Prabhu. Because even if we do seminars, whatever, I think only the good people, the sincere ones attend, and the people who are gossiping or whatever, they don't attend, so they don't get the message. But this was helpful. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Krishna.